What happens when an entitled duchess meets a no-nonsense talk show host who refuses to hold back? Tonight, we witness television history in the making as Meghan Markle sat across from Bill Maher on Real Time, and what started as a routine interview quickly spiraled into an explosive confrontation that ended with security escorting her off the set. This is the complete breakdown of how a simple question about royal life turned into a media firestorm that had Hollywood buzzing. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below because this story has layers you won't believe. The green room at HBO Studios was unusually tense that Friday evening. Meghan Markle had agreed to appear on Real Time with Bill Maher, her first major television interview since stepping back from royal duties. Her publicist had assured her this would be a softball interview, a chance to discuss her charitable work and new ventures. What they hadn't counted on was Bill Maher's legendary unpredictability. She's been very specific about the topics she wants to avoid, her publicist whispered to one of the producers. No questions about the royal family drama, no discussions about the Netflix deal controversy, and definitely nothing about the recent polls showing declining popularity. The producer nodded, but anyone who knew Maher understood that forbidden topics were exactly what made him tick. He had built his career on asking the questions others wouldn't dare ask, and tonight would be no different than as the show's opening. Credits rolled. Maher delivered his usual monologue with razor-sharp precision, touching on everything from politics to pop culture. The audience was warmed up and ready for what they assumed would be a typical celebrity interview. Little did they know they were about to witness one of the most uncomfortable moments in late-night television history. Tonight, we're joined by Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, actress, activist, and someone who has certainly kept the tabloids busy. Maher announced to thunderous applause. Please welcome Meghan Markle. She walked onto the set with the poise of someone accustomed to being in the spotlight, her smile perfectly rehearsed, her designer dress catching the studio lights just right. The audience gave her a warm reception, and for the first few minutes, everything seemed to be going according to plan. Thank you so much for having me, Bill, Meghan said, settling into her chair with practiced grace. I'm excited to be here and talk about some of the amazing projects we have coming up. Well, before we get to the projects, I have to ask, Maher began, his trademark smirk already forming. How does it feel to be the most controversial member of the British royal family since, well, maybe ever? The smile on Meghan's face faltered slightly, but she recovered quickly. I think that's a bit of an exaggeration, Bill. I'm just someone who married for love and has been trying to make a positive impact in the world. Right, but you've got to admit, the whole situation has been pretty dramatic. I mean, you've got the tell-all interviews, the Netflix series, the book deals. It's like the royal family's very own reality show, except with more tiaras and less self-awareness. The audience chuckled, but Meghan's expression had noticeably cooled. I think there's been a lot of misinformation spread about Harry and me. We've simply been trying to tell our truth and protect our family. Your truth, Maher repeated, emphasizing the phrase with obvious skepticism. See, that's what I don't get. Since when did we start having multiple versions of the truth? I thought truth was just, truth. Well, Bill, when you've been subjected to a coordinated campaign of harassment and lies by the British tabloid press, you understand that sometimes you have to set the record straight yourself. Maher leaned back in his chair, clearly warming up to the topic. But here's what I'm curious about. You knew what you were getting into when you married into the royal family, right? I mean, it's not like Prince Harry was working at a coffee shop when you met him. The guy comes with a pretty well-documented history of media attention. I think that's oversimplifying things considerably, Meghan replied, her voice taking on a sharper edge. No one can truly prepare for the level of scrutiny and, frankly, abuse that we faced. Abuse? Maher raised his eyebrows. Look, I'm not saying the press is always fair, but isn't calling legitimate criticism abuse a bit much? I mean, you're public figures. You took millions of dollars from Netflix to tell your story. You can't have it both ways. What we experienced went far beyond legitimate criticism, Bill. We're talking about racist attacks, invasion of privacy, and a deliberate campaign to undermine everything we tried to do. The tension in the studio was becoming palpable. Maher sensed he had struck a nerve and, true to form, decided to press harder. Okay, but let's talk about some of the specific claims you've made. You said in that Oprah interview that you were essentially a prisoner, that you had your passport taken away, that you couldn't leave. But then we find out you went on multiple trips. You had a baby shower in New York with your celebrity friends. How do you reconcile those things? Meghan's composure was visibly cracking now. Those are completely different situations, and you're taking things out of context. Am I? Because it seems like whenever someone points out inconsistencies in your narrative, the response is always that they're taking things out of context, or that they're racist, or that they're part of some conspiracy against you. That's not fair, Bill. What's not fair is making serious accusations about an entire institution and then claiming victim status when people ask for clarification. You accuse someone in the royal family of making racist comments about your unborn child. That's a huge accusation. But then you won't say who it was, and Harry later says it wasn't racist, just unconscious bias. Which is it? The audience was dead silent now, sensing the interview had taken an unexpected turn. Meghan's publicist was frantically making hand gestures from the side of the stage, trying to signal that they needed to change topics. "I think you're deliberately mischaracterizing what we said," Meghan replied, her voice rising slightly. "And I find it interesting that you're so quick to defend an institution that has a documented history of racism and exclusion." "I'm not defending anyone," Maher shot back. "I'm asking questions. That's what journalists do. Or at least, that's what we used to do before everyone decided that asking tough questions was somehow problematic." "You know what, Bill?" Meghan said, her carefully maintained composure finally beginning to crack. "I came here tonight thinking we could have a respectful conversation about the work I'm doing, about the causes I care about. Instead, you're rehashing tabloid talking points and trying to gotcha me with questions that have already been answered." Maher wasn't backing down. "They've been answered? Really? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like every time someone asks a direct question, you give a non-answer and then play the victim card. Look, I get it. The press can be brutal. But you signed up for this life, and more importantly, you've made a career out of talking about this life. I didn't sign up to have my child's safety threatened. I didn't sign up to have my father manipulated by the tabloids. I didn't sign up to watch my husband's mental health deteriorate because of the constant attacks. But you did sign up to be a public figure," Maher countered. "And when you're a public figure, especially one who's constantly in the media talking about your personal life, people are going to have opinions. Some of those opinions you're going to like, some you're not. That's how it works. There's a difference between having opinions and launching coordinated attacks designed to destroy someone's reputation and livelihood." "Okay, but who's attacking your livelihood? You've got the Netflix deal, you've got the Spotify deal, you've got the book deals. You're worth millions of dollars. You live in a mansion in Montecito. Exactly how has your livelihood been destroyed?" Meghan's eyes flashed with anger. "You think this is about money? You think I left everything I knew, my family, my career, my country for money? I think you left because you wanted to control your narrative, and you found out that being a working royal meant you couldn't do that. So you created a situation where you could be the victim and the hero of your own story, and frankly, it's been pretty profitable. That is completely unfair and untrue. Is it? Let's look at the timeline. You join the royal family. You get a fairy tale wedding that costs millions of pounds of taxpayer money. You get a platform that reaches billions of people. But then you find out that being a royal means following certain protocols, means not being able to do whatever you want whenever you want. So what happens? Suddenly, everyone's racist, everyone's against you. The institution is terrible, and you have no choice but to leave and tell your story to the highest bidder. You're completely misrepresenting what happened. Then explain it to me. Because from the outside, it looks like you wanted all the benefits of being a royal, the titles, the prestige, the platform, but none of the responsibilities or limitations that come with it. That's not what happened at all. We tried to work within the system. We proposed a half-in, half-out model where we could continue to serve the Commonwealth while also having some financial independence. We were told that wasn't possible. Right, because that's not how the monarchy works. You can't be a little bit royal. Either you're in or you're out. And when you were told that, you chose to be out, which is fine. But then you spent the next 3 years trashing the institution that gave you everything you have. We didn't trash anyone. We told our truth. There's that phrase again. Your truth. But here's the thing about truth. It's not subjective. Either something happened or it didn't. Either someone said something or they didn't. You can't have your truth and my truth and Harry's truth and the royal family's truth. There's just truth. Meghan was visibly frustrated now, her hands gesturing more animatedly as she spoke. Bill, you're being deliberately obtuse. When you've been lied about for years, when your words have been twisted and taken out of context, when you've been subjected to a level of scrutiny that no other member of that family has ever faced, sometimes you have to set the record straight. But that's just it. Other members of the royal family have faced scrutiny. Princess Diana faced incredible scrutiny. Sarah Ferguson faced scrutiny. Even Kate Middleton has faced scrutiny. The difference is, they didn't run to Oprah every time someone wrote something mean about them. Don't you dare compare our situation to Diana's. Diana was trapped in that system with no way out. She was isolated and alone. Harry and I had each other, and we made the difficult decision to put our family first. Diana was trapped. Diana gave one of the most famous interviews in television history. Diana wrote a book. Diana had relationships with journalists. She knew exactly how to work the media when she wanted to. The difference is, she understood that being a royal meant accepting that you're going to be criticized, and she dealt with it with grace and dignity. Grace and dignity? Meghan's voice was rising now. You mean she suffered in silence while her husband cheated on her publicly? You mean she developed eating disorders and self-harmed because of the pressure? That's your definition of grace. And dignity. No, my definition of grace and dignity is not airing your family's dirty laundry on international television for money. My definition of grace and dignity is understanding that when you marry into an institution that's existed for over 1,000 years, you don't get to change the rules just because you don't like them. So we were supposed to just accept racism? We were supposed to just accept that our son would be treated differently because of the color of his skin. Again with the racism allegations. Look, I'm not saying racism doesn't exist. I'm not saying the royal family is perfect. But you've made these incredibly serious accusations, and when people ask for specifics, you get defensive. You want to have it both ways. You want to make the accusations, but you don't want to face the scrutiny that comes with making those accusations. The scrutiny. Meghan stood up from her chair, her voice shaking with anger. The scrutiny has been nonstop for 5 years. Everything I do, everything I say, everything I wear is analyzed and criticized. I've been called everything from a social climber to a gold digger to a narcissist. And when I try to defend myself, I'm told I'm playing the victim. But you are playing the victim. That's exactly what you're doing right now. I'm not playing anything. I'm trying to have an honest conversation about the challenges we faced, and you're attacking me for it. I'm not attacking you. I'm asking you questions. The fact that you see questions as attacks is part of the problem. The problem? The problem is that people like you think you can say whatever you want about me and my family without consequences. The problem is that you think because I'm married into the royal family, I somehow gave up my right to be treated with basic human decency. Nobody's denying your right to be treated with decency, but you also don't have a right to be immune from criticism. And you certainly don't have the right to make serious accusations about people and institutions without being challenged on those accusations. The audience was watching this exchange with a mixture of fascination and discomfort. This was clearly not the friendly celebrity interview they had expected to witness. You know what, Bill? Meghan said, her voice trembling with barely contained rage. I think I'm done here. This isn't an interview, it's an ambush. You invited me here under false pretenses, and now you're trying to humiliate me on national television. I'm trying to have a conversation, Maher replied, his tone remaining maddeningly calm. But every time I ask you a direct question, you deflect and play the victim. You came on a talk show, Meghan. This is what talk shows do. We talk about things. We talk about things. You call this talking? You've spent the last 20 minutes attacking everything I've said, twisting my words, and making me out to be some kind of villain. This is exactly the kind of behavior that drove us away from the UK in the first place. No, what drove you away from the UK was the fact that you couldn't handle being in an institution where you weren't the center of attention. You couldn't handle the fact that there were rules and protocols that applied to everyone, including you. Meghan was pacing now, her composure completely gone. You don't know anything about what we went through. You don't know what it's like to have your every move scrutinized, to have lies written about you every single day, to have your family threatened. Actually, I do know what it's like. I've been in this business for 30 years. I've been attacked, criticized, threatened, sued. The difference is, I don't run away crying about it every time someone says something I don't like. Running away crying? Is that what you think we did? We made an incredibly difficult decision to protect our family. We gave up everything we knew to build a better life for our children. You gave up everything? You kept your titles. You kept your security detail. You kept your celebrity status. You moved to one of the most expensive areas in California and signed deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Exactly what did you give up? We gave up our service to the Commonwealth. We gave up our roles in the charities we cared about. We gave up our relationship with Harry's family. We gave up our home. No, you chose to give those things up because you wanted to monetize your story. There's a difference between being forced to give something up and choosing to give it up because you see a better opportunity somewhere else. That's not what happened, and you know it. We were pushed out. We were made to feel unwelcome. We were told that there was no place for us in the modern monarchy. Or maybe you were told that the monarchy isn't about you. Maybe you were told that being a royal means serving something bigger than yourself, and you decided that wasn't for you. How dare you question our commitment to service? Look at what we've done since we left. Look at the organizations we've supported, the causes we've championed. We've done more meaningful work in the last 3 years than most people do in a lifetime. Meaningful work? You mean the podcast where you talked about yourself for 12 episodes? You mean the Netflix series where you compared your wedding to Nelson Mandela's release from prison? You mean the book where Harry aired every family grievance for the world to see? We shared our experiences to help other people who might be going through similar struggles. We used our platform to raise awareness about mental health, about racism, about the importance of authentic storytelling. You used your platform to settle scores and make money. And look, there's nothing wrong with making money. But don't pretend this is about helping people. This is about revenge. Revenge? Against whom? Against the institution that refused to protect us? Against the media that systematically destroyed our reputation? Against the people who stood by and watched while we were attacked? Against the family that you feel didn't give you everything you wanted? Against the institution that expected you to follow the same rules as everyone else? Against the country that didn't fall in love with you the way you expected them to? This is unbelievable. You're actually suggesting that we left because we wanted attention? We left because we wanted to protect our son from growing up in an environment where he would be constantly compared to his cousins, where he would be treated as less than because of his heritage. And how's that working out? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've put your children in the spotlight more than any royal children have ever been. You've got them on your Christmas cards, you've got them in your documentaries, you've got them in your public statements. How is that protecting them? We share what we choose to share when we choose to share it. We control our narrative now, not the tabloids. Right, because that's worked out so well. Your approval ratings are in the toilet, half of America thinks. You're opportunistic, and the other half thinks you're delusional. But hey, at least you're controlling your narrative. My approval ratings? Is that what this is about? You think I care about approval ratings? I care about being able to look my children in the eye and tell them that I stood up for what was right. What was right? What was right about accusing people of racism without providing any evidence? What was right about airing private family conversations? What was right about making money off your family's pain? What was right was refusing to be silenced. What was right was speaking up when we saw injustice. What was right was putting our family first instead of protecting an institution that didn't protect us. You know what? I think we've heard enough about your truth for one night. Because here's the actual truth. The truth that everyone can see, but you refuse to acknowledge. You wanted to be the star of the royal family, and when you found out that wasn't how it worked, you decided to burn the whole thing down. That's enough. Meghan's voice was shaking with fury. I don't have to sit here and listen to this. I don't have to be subjected to this kind of treatment. You're right, you don't. But the fact that you're walking away instead of defending your positions kind of proves my point, doesn't it? I'm not walking away. I'm refusing to participate in a character assassination disguised as an interview. Character assassination? I'm asking you to defend the things you've said and done. If you can't do that, maybe the problem isn't with the questions. The problem is that you've already made up your mind about me. You've already decided that I'm the villain in this story, and nothing I say is going to change that. I haven't decided anything. I'm asking you to explain your actions, and instead of explaining them, you're attacking me for asking. I'm not attacking you. I'm pointing out that this interview is a sham. You brought me here to embarrass me, and I'm not going to give you the satisfaction. I brought you here to have a conversation, but conversations require two people willing to engage. Honestly, you're only willing to engage if everyone agrees with you. That's not true, and you know it. Then sit down and answer the questions. I'm done answering your questions, and I'm done with this interview. Meghan began walking toward the edge of the stage, her heels clicking loudly on the floor. The audience watched in stunned silence as she approached the wings. "Ladies and gentlemen, Meghan Markle," Mar said sarcastically, gesturing toward her retreating figure. "Another brave warrior for truth and justice, as long as nobody asks her any hard questions." "You're pathetic," Meghan called back over her shoulder, her voice echoing through the studio. "And you're exactly what I thought you were," Mar replied. "Thanks for proving my point." The cameras continued rolling as Meghan disappeared into the wings, leaving Mar alone at his desk with a studio full of shocked audience members. He turned to face the camera directly. "Well, that was illuminating," he said with a slight smile. "I guess when you build your entire brand on being a victim, you can't handle it when someone refuses to play along." The show cut to commercial, as the audience sat in stunned silence, processing what they had just witnessed. In the wings, Meghan was already demanding that her security team escort her out of the building, her publicist frantically trying to do damage control. That it was a television moment that would be dissected and analyzed for years to come. A perfect example of what happens when someone used to controlling their narrative meets someone who refuses to be controlled. So there you have it. One of the most explosive interviews in recent memory. What do you think? Was Bill Maher too harsh, or did Meghan Markle prove his point by walking off the set? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more stories like this one. And here's a question for you. Do you think Meghan will ever do another unscripted interview after this disaster?